This is the History of New Zealand podcast on the Eat to My Own Beat podcast network. This is the History of New Zealand podcast, episode number 37. Waikato. Although fighting in the Waikato had finished by the mid-1864, the following year, Grey confiscated more than 480,000 hectares of land from the Waikato tribe. In the Waikato, the punishment was for early rebellion. Proclamations under the Act were issued on the 30th of January, 1865, for the seizure of the East Wairua and West Pacoake blocks for settlement and colonization, followed by the Central Waikato District and the Menagerie, Pukaki, Uhumata, and Karakari blocks. As the occupants were evicted from the land, their belongings were looted by colonial forces and the neighboring settlers, with houses ransacked, cattle seized, and horses transported for sale in Auckland. The war and confiscation of the land caused heavy economic, social, and cultural damage to the Waikato Tanui tribe. King Tauahau and his people were forced to retreat into the heartland of the Ngati Maniapoto. The Maniapoto, by contrast, had been more zealous for war than the Waikato, yet suffered no loss of land because its territory was too remote to be used for white settlers. The 1927 Royal Commission of Confiscated Land, chaired by Senior Supreme Court Judge Sir William Sim, concluded that although the government restored a quarter of the 1,202,172 acres originally seized and paid almost 23,000 compensation, the Waikato compensation had been excessive. The Waitanagi Tribunal in 1985 declared that the Tanui people of Waikato had never rebelled, but had been forced into a defensive war. In the early 1990s, Tanui opted to bypass the Waitanagi Tribunal and included a treaty claim settlement for the Crown through direct renegotiation. In May 1995, the Crown signed a deed of settlement with Waikato Tanui that included cash and a land value at $170 million. The settlement included an admission by the Crown that unjust confiscation of the land. Thank you for listening to the History of New Zealand podcast. We're found on YouTube and anywhere else you could find your normal podcasts. Please like, comment, and subscribe, or find us at www.eattomyownbeat.com.